Good afternoon, Tabernacle. I join you here from my home. Pastor Artie is joining you from his home. And Pastor Artie, how's your day going? What's on your heart and mind?
Yeah, my day is going well, and just doing a number of these Zoom meetings and hangouts, and trying to stay connected with people as it relates to work that needs to get done this week. So it's been a good day. Thanks for asking.
Yeah. So we wanted to take a few minutes and introduce you to the upcoming teaching series that Artie had put together last year, actually. And it's called God's People in a Broken World, A Journey Through Lamentations. So, Pastor Artie, if you could just, for those who are not even familiar with the content of Lamentations, just give a brief snapshot. What is it about? What's a summary?
Yeah, so the book of Lamentations is a collection of poetry, actually. It's an expression of the people of God and how they're dealing with the suffering that they're experiencing. In particular, they're experiencing the loss of Jerusalem. They're going into exile, experiencing what it means to lose the inheritance that's been given to them in the land, and just the pain and suffering that comes as a result of that.
Yeah, thanks. So you originally put this in the teaching schedule for last year, actually. So I'm kind of curious, like, what was your original intent in that? And then now you've actually, people probably don't know this, of course, but you've moved it up in the schedule. What's maybe the added layer of intent from your original intent in putting this into this teaching schedule for 2020?
So it was in May of 2019 that the Lord had expressed to me that the people of God really need to learn how to lament. We need to learn how to live into what it means to lament, and what does sitting in that moment of suffering and pain mean, and what does it look like? Partly because much of Western Christianity is about celebration and praise, and it's about success and triumph. And I don't think we fully grasp the reality that that also has to be balanced with suffering and pain that is a real dynamic in the human experience. And so so the original intent was for us to spend some time growing in our ability to understand what it means to suffer, not only individually but corporately. And so it was scheduled to be in on the teaching schedule for this year, just a little bit later than we actually are now doing it. And the idea behind that is, in light of what we have been experiencing from a national standpoint, from a global standpoint, it felt like this was the next series to engage in. It felt like this is the time for us to look at what does it mean to suffer corporately, which is very in line with what Israel and the people of God were experiencing. What does it mean to suffer, to engage in pain and sorrow, and to actually lament in a corporate experience? So that was part of looking at what we're going through as a country, as globally, and just saying this is probably the best time to begin to dive into that and to look at what is the proper response in the midst of brokenness. What is the proper response, and how can a person lament in the midst of difficult times, but also hold on to the reality that God is still in control.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I mean that's so maybe different than what we're used to. I mean, we just celebrated the resurrection, and
Yes.
we don't, as a church, we don't follow the church calendar too closely as it's historically been portrayed across the year, but it definitely feels a bit strange to say, okay, we've celebrated the resurrection. Now let's dig into that more. Let's dig into the hope there, the life that's there, and what the resurrection teaches us about quote life that way. Like, you know, why focus in further on some of the grief we may be feeling, or the anger we may be feeling, or things like that.
Yeah. Well, and I think a couple of weeks ago, I started to feel this heaviness. And I started hearing all of these reasons as to why this was happening.
Mm,
And I think in our human experience, we want an answer to why. And I'll tell you every time, why is a dead end question. It will always leave us in a space um, of fear and anxiety, and feeling that over the last couple of weeks as I started to look forward to the next sermon series. I thought, we need to spend some time here.
yeah.
We need to spend some time here thinking about this. The other side of it was, I don't know if the people of God fully know how to lament for the other. Um, we can lament for ourselves.
Yeah.
we can struggle in our own difficulty and heartache. But how do we come and enter into that space where the scripture says to rejoice with others, but we're also to mourn with others? And how do we learn to do that even when it's not particularly something that impacts me directly?
Mm,
I think we sometimes struggle with that.
yeah.
I think we sometimes give pad answers to things as a way of trying to deal with the difficult realities around us. And I think scripture is challenging us not to do that, not to forget that God is in control, not to forget that he's good, but also not to forget to lament in those moments when we're experiencing the reality of a broken world.
Yeah. Yeah. That's that's different. um no, it's good. As I've been listening and reading through Lamentations, one of the things I've been thinking about is, okay, what are people's categories for what a lament is, and what lamentations is even, and thinking, if you're in the kind of educational or business world, maybe you have like, maybe you're thinking this is kind of like emotional intelligence, or how does, I guess, where is this different from probably most of the things we're thinking this might be, and then where does it connect to our human experience in as a worker, as a parent, as a grandparent, that kind of thing? Where is this going to connect for us practically and habitually?
Yeah, I think first off, it levels the playing field for just understanding the human experience. Like, this is a reality of what it means to live in a broken world. That there are hard things that we all experience. And so I don't think it matters what field of study that you're in. Um, there is something inside of us that wants to protest against darkness.
Hmm.
There is something inside of each of us that need to just emote how we feel when things are difficult, when things are challenging. There are times when life is confusing and you simply just don't understand what God is doing. You don't understand half the time why you're experiencing what you're experiencing. but in the midst of that, you can still affirm that God is who he says he is, and that he'll do what he's promised to do. And so I think every aspect of life we come into this kind of experience, and we understand what it means to lament, although people don't like doing it.
Yeah.
We don't enjoy it, and we want to quickly run from it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think that the church has done some damage in that we have acted like reality doesn't exist for people. And so when you give pad answers to people in the in the midst of their difficult situation, you lose a baby, or a loved one dies, and people say things, and it's like, what world do you live in? like this is painful, this hurts.
Yeah.
And we need to learn how to better enter into people's situations and lament with them, and cry with them, and sorrow with them, and suffer with them. And it's okay to remember who God is, but it's also okay to cry out to him and say, hey, where are you in the midst of this?